TaToH is now up to 110 games played. This man is starting to just light it up. He's clearly getting into the game. I love to see it. Same from Viper. Same from a lot of the AoE pros. I love how they're actually kind of enthusiastically engaging with the new Age of Empires instead of just sticking to the previous one, the predecessor. But yeah, so in this game we've got TaToH, who I think is around top 30 at the moment, up against SimTom, who is 110. And it's going to be France versus England matchup. Let's get it underway. Of course, TaToH, he's going to be playing France, so he should have a rush advantage early on. And meanwhile, SimTom is playing the English. But remember, it's not just a be-all, end-all. There is definitely ways you can counter as England, usually around early outpost expansions, backing up with an army of longbowmen and spears. And that should allow you to directly take on the sort of armies that the French like to put out. In fact, I think it's actually quite paramount that you get outposts up if you want to fight against the Frenchmen in the early game, because French people can just produce not only the knights, which will skirt around your spears and ignore them, but then they also can produce the archers, which actually counter the spearmen, but also if you have a production advantage in terms of output of archers, will also counter the longbowmen, as the longbowmen, while they fire further, they move slower, which means if you're ever forced to retreat against another player's archer line, they can actually run you down. It's quite a sad situation when playing England longbows and you don't have the number advantage. Doesn't happen too often, but then again, I feel like quite often the name of the game here, the repeating story for me, is France's eco booms a little bit earlier and a little bit better because, of course, they get the cheap economic researchers, which means that they can invest a little bit more in troops and also get a tech up potentially sooner because they could save more for the landmarks. That being said, SimTom does move very far out ahead to sort out the deer at the start of this. He's already just shooting all the deer down. I feel like this is more than anything, this to me just strikes as like a habit that good players are going to get into, just in case they do run up against Rust players later. But obviously, it just means that there's less downtime for the villagers where they have to shoot their bows. Instead, they just continue collecting. So min-max-wise, it's definitely efficient. You could have a balanced argument of, is it worth stopping off for that versus having your scout out and getting one or two more sheep sooner? I think that is a reasonable question to ask, and I would say it's almost inconsequential. There's always going to be an RNG factor with the sheep spawning especially, right, on whether you actually find them or not. So I think that's a bigger discussion that has to be had first before you even open the gates for, like, is it worth stopping and sniping deer when you're not against Rust versus going further with scouts for grabbing sheep. That being said, around map generation, I have got some concerns right now in the game. They're not too visible here. There is some kind of absurd ones in this regard, like TaToH having double gold veins right next to each other in range of not only one mining camp, but you could even put a town center here, versus like on the other side of the map where the gold veins are actually ridiculously split far apart for SimTom. Then again, the argument could have been, oh, if this gold vein wasn't here, it would be balanced, but it's just not. And then I've had this situation on other maps where when you're talking about maps with river ford through the center, one player has all the large gold veins spawned on their side of the map. So I really do hope that the World's Edge and Relic are looking at this. I really hope, actually, that they have fixed generations which have been tested and agreed upon by pro players for the ranked mode when that does arrive. I think that's going to be the way they balance it. They'll accept that random seeds is a part of the game, but they'll also look to balance the professional scene around fixed generation maps, which might get stale if they don't release enough of them regularly, but I think it's probably the better way to go if they can't come up with a better solution on the generation front right now. All in all, though, so far, it looks like France is going for that early tech up, and they are faster. SimTom hasn't begun yet, but I think that's what these 4 villages are for. So he can get the landmark out whenever he wants. There it is. Enough gold in. The pocket will begin building the council hall. Really doesn't... I don't feel like you ever see England diversify from this opening, actually. Because the alternative, the Abbey of Kings, I believe it's called, which heals units in range, does seem like a nice idea in theory, but like the longbow value is just too high. You need it. It's your early melee presence and your early opening opportunity. Not to mention the fact, if you're worried about healing, obviously, then you can research the campfires for the longbowmen. It'll only heal them, but still, like, it's kind of like it's a mini Abbey at that point, and then you still get the benefits of going for a council hall. But in terms of speed, it's definitely going to be on TaToH's side here, as they both have 4 builders on this, and TaToH started a lot sooner. So SimTom's going to be a little bit behind, but of course, longbow production is much quicker. The problem being however, is that knights are the direct counter to the longbowmen. So not only does he need this structure, he now needs a barracks alongside it, and he needs ample food and wood production to support both of those outputs, while TaToH can actually begin to neglect wood fairly heavily and just prioritize food and gold. Then again, I don't expect TaToH to do this fully. I expect him to invest some in wood and 1 or 2 in stone, because the beautiful thing about this opening and why it's kind of busted in some regards for France is the tech-up building saves him 150 wood, yeah? That 150 wood that can then be used towards making a second town center. So then you just prioritize people and stone, and you're already doing gold and food, and you don't need much wood past this point, right, early on. So you can essentially go for a second TC boom rush. Meanwhile, like England, because they're going to be repelling your knights, will have to invest all of their wood early on into producing ample longbowmen and spearmen, meaning they can't actually go for an eco boom themselves. One knight already out. I think TaToH maybe waits the second knight. It's just nicer when you've got 2, because then with the charging damage, you can actually kill a Vili with each cycle, because remember, the first hit does 29 damage before going down to, I think it was 21 or 19. A number he can, of course, get higher if he chooses to build a blacksmith now. But like I said, when you're playing France at this early point in a 1v1, I think like your wood investment is more or less exclusively just diverged towards getting your hands on a second TC. We'll see if TaToH actually opts for that. So far, he's just getting more production bonus, as he did need to expand across to more food. He has a few sheep left, but he just wants to make sure that when this food line goes down, he's not completely drained, which I completely respect. But double knights up. TaToH now cycling around the side, and it looks like Simtom has got a reasonable amount of defense. I'd want to see maybe 1 or 2 more spearmen. They're just so slow to produce in comparison to the longbowmen, right? It's double the production time. But with 2 spears, it's enough to actually deter the knights. So TaToH will have to think about this. Because right now, at this stage in the game, depending on the generation, there's probably no exposed eco. He spots this outpost is going up, right? He knows the woodline is not revealed, and he knows that there's probably still more sheep back at Simtom's town center. And even if there's not, maybe he does spot out this mill, but one outpost or just the prioritization of having your military at the front will deter any sort of aggro onto the eco that TaToH can achieve. So if I'm TaToH right now, I'm probably thinking, do I continue like ultra spam, maybe get a few more knights, but am I now thinking second TC? I would 100% say second TC is a sure shout. I like this move out, by the way, just diversifying his production line. The reason this is really cool is against a cavalry-type nation, this might be a bit more risky. You might need a bit more of investment because you probably want an outpost as well. But against an English player, like England doesn't tend to, and you may have noticed this when you folks have been watching these, England players don't tend to scout out to the right and left. They go down the center because the whole idea, especially in the France matchup, which, by the way, I think, yeah, it was just a scouty snipe. No knights being taken out. The thing about this matchup is, like, you want to reach the enemy base quickly and cut off the source of their cav production at its heart, right? And more importantly, you want to keep the cavalry on the defensive, repelling your attacks. Which means that this eco should be unharassed. But, wait, no. Oh my god, TaToH didn't realize. So this wolf, I thought it was just for efficiency he wanted to build first, but this wolf has now killed 2 of his workers. Oh, sorry, no, 1. It's going to be 2, though. I don't think he knows this is going on still. No, because look, he has to focus in his base. So Simtom is unknowingly actually completely screwing TaToH over, still doing eco damage when he's just actually attacking the military. Speaking of which, can he get the snipe? Yeah, he gets rid of the knight. He backs off. It cost him 1 or 2 units. But don't worry, so damage has been done up here. TaToH is going to lose a second worker to a single wolf. Oh my god. Wait, will he lose 3? He has to be getting warnings. Okay, he deals with it now, but this is like, you're thumping your head against the keyboard right now. You just lost 2 Villies to a goddamn wolf. I thought that this matchup was England versus France, not France versus England and Gaia. But here we are. More spears out. We'll keep these knights away. I don't think he got any harassment and he wasn't able to get close enough. And the farm's already going down, folks. This is the point where this equals out to hunting. Because you have the initial investment, but it's actually half, right? It's 37 wood. And more importantly, now that you're in the second age, you get that 20% harvest rate boost, which beats the gathering rate boost you get from harvesting carcasses. Of course, he's already got these guys out here, so he'll continue this because he's not building that many farms just yet. But this means that now he's kind of primed for a switch over to farm production without it being counterintuitive in terms of food income. Right, and this is where England can boom on the food front. Of course, France still has advantage in other areas via the eco researchers just being cheaper. It means that even though this is the case now, TaToH should be able to get a tech up first if he wants to. Of course, losing these few villages on the outskirts to a wolf definitely slowed down his food income somewhat. And SimTom, he hasn't been slowing down his expenditure of food and wood so far, as he's continued to escalate his army. I don't think he's going out here. I don't think he's going to scout this. He shouldn't scout the expansion for the food line here. He's just looking for a wrap to try and get into the gold line, if anything. There is a decent amount of knights here. 8 now for TaToH. So you do need to be careful. In terms of spear count, there is ample spears. 14 spearmen. Good lord. And he's going to rush them in. So he actually cancelled longbow production. In fairness, I like this because I think 5 is enough to usually snipe out villages when you see them. And you're kind of seeing that now. Although he screwed up somewhat because he brought his villies closer to the TC, so they're going to start to fall. But yeah, he's realizing quickly that the damage that is coming out from his spears just isn't good enough against these outposts. He's going to engage, so spears on knights, and under the fire of the tower, I do believe TaToH should have the advantage here. He's lost 1 knight so far, should lose a second. Spearmen are starting to be sniped out because he did build the archers. There we go. So this is just a counter to everything that England does in the early game. If you can now start to spam out archers and just have a few knights spare, TaToH will inherently move ahead of England. And also, by the way, because he expanded his wood line and has plenty more people on there, he actually now has the resource output to keep up with producing the archers. Not only that, he can support 2 or even 3. And you can already see the second archery range is now being built. So yeah, he's going to escalate. What I love about this the most is that when that fight came in, probably what became obvious to TaToH is there's barely any archers here, which is now why he goes for the second archery range, because it means with 2, he equals out the build speed of the longbowman. But his are cheaper, right? Remember that, like his are cheaper. It's 30-50 compared to the 40-50, and then he's cycling at a even pace, right? Which means that longbow amassing won't happen for SimTom anymore unless he invests in archery ranges, which we rarely actually see English players do until maybe like Tech 3. Knight army mill. Oh no, the archers! Do they see each other? They just ran into each other. The archers are exposed! Gonna run them down. Knights are just trying to clean up the rest of them. There's not enough archers here for the spear count, I don't think, but there might be with his spread because he's cut straight through him. He's going to lose most of his knights, but the archers might be able to clean this up. It looks like SimTom, with the spear advantage, will actually be able to take the better side of this fight, and he even moves in to build the outpost. That is the play we were looking for. That almost was catastrophic for Sim, but TaToH didn't back away in time. If he moves his spears, his horsemen off that, they're probably fine, because in terms of movement speed, I think spears are slightly faster, right? No, they're the same. 1.25, 1.25. But the longbowmen were already sniped, right? You got 2, 3 of them, and then you just back away, and it's a trade. It's just a good trade, because you maybe take, I don't know, half health on one of your knights, but it's totally worth it, because then you definitely have longbow advantage, or bow advantage, rather, in the next fight. Because also, SimTom still is not producing more longbows. It's all spearmen. And he's already walling off the side, so he wants to try and funnel all the attention down the center. He's wholly playing into this gambit of, like, I just have spears. He's got a little bit of a longbow contingent now coming out, 7 moving up to the front, but they are vastly outnumbered now. It's double the count of archers for TaToH, and he's still producing knights as well. In fact, TaToH, he actually has the eco to support a 3rd archery range. I wouldn't be surprised if we see that in a moment. Just because then you're definitely going to be ahead. Like, you have to feel you're somewhat ahead, because SimTom can't be expanding his eco too much at the moment, as he keeps getting forced to invest into new armies after these last few fights. But with this last bout, SimTom might feel that TaToH is going to chill on the melee front, or rather on the tech up front, because he has to catch up on the melee front. Problem is, TaToH isn't doing that. TaToH almost has the required resources to get his 3rd landmark, and then this will escalate quickly. Speaking of which, 3rd landmark already being built by SimTom, and this should be scouted out by TaToH. Remember, this is a town center, so this will eco-boom SimTom somewhat, because there was never a secondary TC built for TaToH. In fact, he's still only 1 TC. He's opted to just commit fully into this. I think if you do want to commit into this, by the way, you kind of need your forces further forward. I would also absolutely adore Scout coming out from TaToH right now, because if there's one thing that's just been made clear by the last fight, this Stealth Forest is going to be a pretty decisive factor in the upcoming fight, right? And right now, the Vision of Arch actually goes the way of Symptom because he's set up a network. Look, he's got a tower over here. He's got another outpost over here. And he's got an expansion down here. So he's not only is he walled off the left side, but he scouts out most of the entry routes for TaToH and gets early warnings now as he sees him coming. He's going to try and back up. These longbows are going to get sniped, by the way. There's no way they can move away quick enough. And remember, now you're forced to engage. It's going to be archers versus spearmen, and look how many of them fall. I think Symptom's army just got rinsed. Yeah, he's going to fully retreat. He's starting to produce knights now. This is the counter. He has to do this. Because TaToH has shown no signs of building spearmen, he actually can start to get a counter out. And there's the charge in. So we'll get rid of one of these. And they do have Vision Advantage. They also do have attack speed buff. Remember, that is a big factor here with the network of castles. But with the knights arriving, he will be forced to back off for the moment. Might lose one more longbowman. It looks like TaToH is going to chill for a second. But more stables being produced, so I love this move from Symptom. It's kind of ironic, right? When you're playing up against France, your counter to them is going to be cavalry. But TaToH really has let up the brakes in terms of production of knights, right? And because he saw that TaToH also did tech up alongside him, it means that TaToH probably doesn't have ample gold reserves to spam out knights. So just 5 or 6 knights would be enough for Symptom to take advantage in these fights now against these short bows. And also, the other thing, remember, TaToH, he doesn't have spearmen. And even if he did, he doesn't have them teched up to be veteran ones yet. Meanwhile, Symptom does have access to those, so he can continue to produce longbowmen now with a few knights, and then a small contingent of spearmen will be enough to deal with the pretty underwhelming knight spam right now, because TaToH, he kind of quit production of knights for a while at this point. Still only 2 knights in his army in total, I believe, in fact. And these knights should scout out that they're kind of under vision, I'd hope. Yep, there it is. That'll make it obvious. Because he did actually, yeah, he got the upgrade. He's getting it for this one as well, arrow slits. I just like this play. I also love the kind of visuals that he put on these upgrades, so you as a player over time will learn that, yeah, that's upgraded. It's dangerous. This means center map is really in control. And also, this outpost is going to scout any maneuver around the back. Like, you'd have to go uber wide. And actually, I don't know, did Symptom spot this? No, he didn't actually know this 100%, but this is completely impassable. So any sort of flanking maneuver would be completely spotted anyway. Not that it would matter, because Symptom did scout this high ground, so he knows these are the only 2 ways in on the left side, which he has covered. Nice around the back. A lot of archers, but too many for this to be a good trade for Symptom. However, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? So I believe that was 3 archers, and he lost 3 of his knights. So definitely not worthwhile for Symptom. He's going to need a much larger force to counter this, and I think he's starting to realize it. In fact, if I'm Symptom, maybe I just consider getting my hands on a Mangonel. It's a heavy wood investment, but your wood supply is kind of booming at the moment. It's just gold that needs to be amped up a little. 2 knights. I don't think they scouted out much happening around here. Spearmen just keep themselves busy with body work on the wolves. But his force is going to possibly be engaged. Remember, like we said, the longbowman moves slower, so he's going to have to run forward here. And there's even crossbowmen, so the knights are being counted out. TaToH says, although I may be a cavalry nation, although I may be interested in melee, screw that. It's all about the range. The irony is just being pretty powerful against England here. Usually the renowned range civ is just being completely counted out by France's range forces. As remember, later on he can upgrade these. These are arbaletiers. I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it. I'll call them arbalest. All right, there you go. That's the correct term. Basically, these are crossbowmen that have access to a shield, and when they activate it, they get 5 additional ranged armor, which means that longbows are not going to kill them. Which means now you need more knights. In fact, I don't even think knights. You need men-at-arms. You actually do need men-at-arms to counter this. They do move slow, 1.12, so men-at-arms would eventually catch up to them. The problem is he hasn't teched up into men-at-arms. Like, he actually hasn't upgraded them at all, right? He hasn't got early ones, but he's just stuck with Vanguard men-at-arms. So, really, Symptom at this stage is kind of cornered in his strategy. Meanwhile, TaToH has found a way to kind of get himself out of that corner via just range tech. I actually love this play by TaToH so much. And yeah, look, he's even teching up the range now. Remember, these cost him. The melee one, I don't think they ever cost. It's just the melee attack ones that don't cost. But all in all, you can see where the prioritization is. It's just all about that range for him now. And these two, honestly, these two knights have been alive so long, they actually might just die of old age instead of war at this rate. But it just goes to show what we're talking about. He wasn't interested in it. He's actually upgrading them to vets now and starting to produce a few more. Understandable, because I think with this sizing of an army, the next fight, you want to follow up into the enemy base, which means that you kind of want someone to run down eco when you expose their lines. More knights coming out. I like there's 1 or 2 horsemen. I think you kind of have to, like your budget at this point if you're Simtom, and you just need cannon fodder to get you close enough to attack. TaToH, by the way, building all of his battering rams in his base, will realize that he's going to come under assault in a sec. And he just begins to snipe him out. They actually need to retreat away from this. The crossbows haven't even got involved yet, but he doesn't want any part of it. Knights flanking around the side will be forced away, but these trades are actually good right now for TaToH. He's going to move in, so it looks like longbow line has been exposed. And the spearmen, they're just going to chase him away. These are actually veteran spearmen. He finally did tech them up. Combat will begin, but with a crossbow advantage, I do believe Simtom's army is going to just get wiped here. The knights are not doing enough damage quick enough. There's just not enough for them to get through the archers, and the longbows are all but dead. With that, Simtom is going to be completely repelled and ousted, and I'd say that was maybe not even 20%. Okay, I'd say, let's say 20%. I'm feeling generous. Of TaToH's army being killed, but now he has a full force. He can begin to build battering rams, and that was most of everything that Simtom had. Look at what he's been reduced to. He can't even afford the knight production anymore. He doesn't have the gold income, so he has to go for these horsemen, which completely suck in melee against anything in melee. Although, one thing to be said, folks, means these Arbaletiers suck now. There's no armor to piss. Although I don't think it matters when you're talking about an army of 23 vet archers backed up by some spearmen. And their forward keep will begin to be constructed. Longbowmen getting their shots in, but the archers are going to arrive to counter them out. He splits them up as well, so Archer's just trying to deal with his horsemen as they run away. And he knows he can't get any closer with the horsemen due to just a few spearmen. Just a few measly spearmen, in fact, are good enough to take out these guys. As you can see, they're getting rinsed. And he even upgrades them into horsemen. But it doesn't matter. He's just being fully pushed back now. They're chasing into the base. Battering rams are in. Keep is almost complete. Another battering ram had to be cancelled, might be sniped out by the outpost, but damage is looking pretty significant here, maybe definitive at this point. And that's going to be the melee lines exposed as well, so trying to produce out some of these buildings is going to be nigh on impossible at this stage. He gets 1 or 2 horsemen out just before it gets cut off, but as you run away, I expect a lot of these troops to get sniped, but TaToH doesn't even care. He's like, okay, no. You want to regroup your army, that's fine. Do you know what that is? That's battering ram building time, baby. Let's go. And all the while, more troops being produced. I believe he's making a few more knights as well, just so you can kind of chase down any stragglers. But yeah, Expose is there. Council Hall soon to fall. Once the longbowmen are gone as well, I just don't know how you approach this force, because it means the spearmen reinforcing will never be dropped. He sends 1 battering ram to deal with the outpost, just trying to strip any vision, so Simtom doesn't know what's coming, but I mean, Tom really doesn't have many maneuvers left. He's trying to rebuild his military buildings back here by getting more stables. He realizes that there's not many spearmen left at the moment, but the thing that he doesn't know is there's going to be more being produced in the base that are still running up to the front line. And between that and the fact that he's got a decent amount of Arbaletiers, which, by the way, I love this formation. He's sticking in the center, so he allows his cannon fodder of archers to burn first if there is a night charge. And that means the Arbaletiers will be able to take out all of the horsemen as they come in 1 by 1. Let's try and say this word properly, shall we, guys? Arbaletria. Arbaletria? Arbaletria? I don't know, guys. Someone who speaks French, comment and let me know how to actually pronounce that correctly. I want to get it right. Arbas is kind of what I'm probably going to call. I think Arbas is a good short name. Most people probably just should call them French crossbows, right? But Arbas is shorter. And the Rams move in. He did construct a keep next to the town center, but it's insignificant. You need to actually get in and attack the Rams, and he is coming now. Archers aren't quite in position for TaToH, so he might lose one or two of these Rams. He's backing them up now. The reinforcements have arrived. And right now, they are attacking a farm. Why are they attacking a farm? It doesn't matter. I think the damage is done. He's surrounded him. He'll finally realize his mistake and turn around now. The Villi Rush comes in to try and get rid of the battering rams, but the town center is just being crumbled way too fast. Everything is all but burned. Symptom is looking like he's out of options here. There is just not enough troops here to get rid of the French forces, let alone the battering rams. And when that town center goes down, that just might be it, because I think that's most of the eco remaining for Symptom. Okay, he actually has 100 eco somewhere, but it's just, you have no melee anymore. You don't have the eco to keep up with this. And you're just trickling in troops to die. And the sacred site is even being captured. TaToH is like, man, this guy is stubborn. He will not give up. So I'll just force a situation where it'll seem trivial, because he won't be able to get an army big enough to defend himself. More battering rams are being built right under his nose. And that should be GG. As it gets called, TaToH takes the victory. Tom's got nothing left.